Well, hello, folks, and welcome to another one of my Talking About the Movie's 20th anniversary specials as we're continuing the celebration of 20 years of me covering the biggest new releases of the weekend. It's Halloween weekend, and that means that there are no new movies coming out of noteworthiness this week. So, another one of my specials here, and another one that's kind of being rushed out here. You see that there's no typical intro with the movie of the week or something like that, and we're not going to have, like, the now playing it on Blu-ray and DVD thing this week. It's a simple, straightforward episode. Simply a straightforward conversation, me talking to you about this week's topic, which is the worst sequels of the last 20 years. Now, on Thursday, I did my video of the worst remakes of the last 20 years, and, figured why not talk about these, because just as many bad reboots and remakes that we've had, there have been just as many bad sequels out there, and there have been a lot of them, so this might take a while here, but I'll try to be straightforward with them, because I pretty much covered all these in general on the show here, so not just on the show, but also on Time About the Movies, and also on my blog post over on the website, so yeah, we'll get to these pretty quickly. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're not going to go in any particular order, except for from 2005 to today, some of the worst sequels I've seen over the last 20 years, and with that said, let's get the party started. And one of the first ones right off the bat is The Ring 2, which is honestly one of the dumbest horror sequels ever put to screen. They didn't even try to continue the story. They didn't even try to find a way to continue the story to where it would seem as enjoyable as the original film was, because the original film still holds up, and instead just comes up with the most lamest and most pointless horror sequel ever made. Even with them bringing in, they brought in the original director from the original Japanese The Ring to do it, and that didn't work out because they didn't have a script to work with here, so they just said, fuck it, let's do the same thing we did all over again. Honestly, a lot of these sequels we're going to be talking about have the exact same problem with them, is that they're doing nothing but just doing the same movie as the first film all over again. They're dumbing it down, they're dumbing down the characters where they were from the end of the last movie, and basically have just put them back to where they were at the beginning of the first movie. And we're going to see a lot of these sequels here that really touch on that, and Ring 2 is definitely one of those prime examples of a movie that just feels like it just has no purpose of existing, except the fact that the first film was a big success. Speaking of true horrors, Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo. Somebody actually thought that people wanted to see a sequel to Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, to the point where they were so confident that this was going to be the next Austin Powers. And I still haven't found that clip that I do very much remember when that came up, when that was on E! When I was waiting for Coming Attractions, they had like a special where they were talking to Rob Schneider about how, man, this movie is going to be huge, it's going to be the next Austin Powers, it's going to be the next Meet the Fockers, and it was none of that. It came, it went, it flopped so hard at the box office, and really, it's not hard to see why. It's a terrible Rob Schneider comedy. I mean, it's probably not one of his worst ones, but it's pretty bad. I mean, it's like saying that, me saying it's not one of his worst movies, like me saying, the shit I took this morning wasn't as bad as the one I took last night. It doesn't matter, it's still terrible. But, I mean, I guess it's not the worst thing that could have happened to me, per se, but yeah. Obviously, the worst sequel that came out that year in 2005 was Son of the Mask, a movie that I've gone into great lengths talking about as one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Not only is it one of the most downright depressing and terrifying kids films I've ever seen, the CGI in this movie will scare anybody, kids, adults, for how terrible they are. None of this has anything to do with the original Mask, and they were trying to go for a more family-friendly approach. There's nothing family-friendly about this movie. They somehow made this even more scarier and too much for kids than the first film was. They didn't give a shit at all. They just saw the name, saw Jamie Kennedy was a somewhat relevant name, and said, hey, let's put him in this movie. We can't get Jim Carrey to come back because he won't return our phone calls, and maybe he doesn't want to be back because you keep making movies like this. So yeah, that's Son of the Mask for you. Basic Instinct 2, Risk Addiction, a sequel that is way past its prime, just like seeing Sharon Stone in this movie, who literally every word out of her mouth is, hey, do you like it? Do you like fucking? And you want to keep fucking? Like, she literally, her entire character in this movie is strictly on one word, and that's fucking anybody that she sees. It gets to the point where we keep wanting to tell the screen, we get it. You like to fuck a lot. That's your problem. It's just like, you won't stop keeping your pants up. It's just like the original Basic Instinct works because it's a tense and exciting erotic thriller. For 1992, I mean, that's what it's the only erotic thriller that I've ever seen that actually pulls it out big time. And this is coming in 2006, 14 years too late. And it's just like, what the hell are they even doing with this? Like those softcore movies you see on HBO and Skinamax back in the day were much better than this movie is. Like, it doesn't help it. It doesn't work at all. The sex scenes in this are not sexy whatsoever. They're forced. There's no reason to continue this story because it's except the fact that Sharon Stone hasn't done anything relevant in the 10 years prior to this. And it's just like, there's no point in making a sequel this long in between 1992 and 2006. That ship has sailed. And a movie like Basic Instinct, if you're going to make the sequel, you should have made it 2 to 3 years after the original, not 14 years later. And again, that's going to be one of the many problems we'll take a look at with many of these sequels. They come way past the point where people want to see these movies because nobody gave a crap about Basic Instinct 2. That's for damn certain. Daddy Day Camp, Cuba Gooding Jr. coming into a movie where Eddie Murphy wanted no part of doing that because, heaven forbid, he's got to go film his great role in Norbit. That's going to cost him an Academy Award for Dreamgirls, but there was no reason to make no reason to make a sequel to Daddy Day Camp 4 years after the original had come out, and people don't even remember the original being that great of a movie to begin with. It's just like, why are we even bothering with this at this point? And it just felt like a bad TV pilot. They even got a TV director, Fred Savage, who directed this. Yeah, from the Wonder Years. Kevin from the Wonder Years directed this movie. And, yeah, not surprisingly, he went back to working on TV stuff after that. And really, it's not hard to see why. And Cuba Gooding Jr., this is the low point of his career. I mean, this is the guy that started Boat Trip and Radio, and this is the bottom of the barrel for him. That's how bad this movie is. Speaking of people who should know better, Are We Done Yet? The sequel to Are We There Yet? Which, I mean, it wasn't bad per se, but it wasn't great either. It came out in January. There was no other family competition back then, so of course it was going to be a big hit. And so Stoney looked at it and said, "We got to make a sequel quickly." And hey, we've been trying to get this remake of Mr. Blanding's Build His Dream House together. Let's put that and put it into this movie. And essentially, you've just made a bad remake of The Money Pit, which is a much better movie from the 1980s. And this just isn't. This is a lousy film that isn't funny, it isn't clever, it isn't intelligent in any way, shape, or form. It's just a terrible movie, man. It's a really, really bad film. I hate this movie. I hate it so much. Are we done yet? Yeah, the bad news is that the franchise wasn't done yet because it was made into a TBS TV series by Tyler Perry's company, I think it was. But, yeah. But the movie's franchise, it's done for now. We think. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, just, again, a sequel that comes 7 years after the last movie, after the point where people didn't give a shit about the Mummy anymore, and they were just half-assed in that movie all the way across the board. There was no reason whatsoever to make that movie whatsoever, except the fact that, hey, Brendan Fraser still has some relevancy to him, even though he was not the big box office star he was 10 years ago. But luckily his career has rebounded nicely in the last couple of years, of course, with his Academy Award. But, hey, we can't get Rachel Weisz to come back. Heaven forbid, we can't bring her back. But, hey, we got Maria Bello. She'll do. And Rob Cohen, he directed the Fast and Furious movie. Okay? Nothing about this movie gives you a reason to make it. I mean, so I'm sorry, it's just nothing there. They don't do anything new or interesting. It gets even stupider for its own good with this one. I mean, they were really pushing the stupid levels of comedy in this movie. It's a bad film. It's a pointless trilogy. It's a pointless series it's a pointless film it's a pointless end. Let me rephrase that again. Toy Boat. It's a pointless third film to a series that worked on the first two films on different levels, but they only made this film because they wanted to sell the trilogy, and they got it, and they ruined the franchise's integrity because of it. But, hey, I'll give it this. It's better than the Tom Cruise Mummy film, that's for damn sure. You can put in any of the Resident Evil movies, even the first one wasn't that great either, but every one of these Resident Evil movies gets worse and worse and worse, and they're just nothing more but I keep saying this wrong guy, Paul W.S. Anderson, pouring out his wife on the big screen and saying, "Hey, everybody, look at the piece of ass I'm banging. Don't you wish you could be banging this too?" Okay, that doesn't mean she's a great actress. I'm sorry. Milla Jovovich sucks, and these movies suck as well. They're not entertaining whatsoever. I mean, they are pale imitations of the video games they're trying to make a movie off of, and they just aren't entertaining. They're just not. Sorry. You're never going to convince me that otherwise. All I can hope is that Zach Crager brings the series back on track here. Hopefully that will happen pretty soon, so. And then, of course, you got to add in Little Fockers, which, yeah, that's a really, really bad comedy. Not just a bad comedy, but just a bad sequel, bad third film. Kind of like with The Mummy in general. Pretty much a third film that did not need to be made. They only made it to sell the trilogy, and it failed on so many levels. It just wasn't funny. The humor is even stupider in this movie. There are characters who only exist to create problems for the main characters, even though they want nothing to do with them. Jessica Alba's character in this movie, Jesus Christ, she gets annoying really, really fast. And then we got to do the same tropes we did in the last two movies. It's just like, what more does Ben still need to do to show Robert De Niro that he's worthy of being part of this family? I mean, honestly. And they're making a fourth one. They just finished filming the fourth one, which comes out next year. It's just like, why? Why do we have to keep whoring this series out, even though we're long past the point where nobody gives a shit about these movies anymore? The first two movies were fine, but yeah, you're really pushing your luck here with this film and this next one coming out. And I'm telling you, that next one's not going to be any good. Yeah, the reviews will probably be great for it, but it's Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is a co-owner of Universal and Warner Brothers. And guess where the Fockers films come from? Universal Pictures. So there you go. Take that under consideration. Continuing the trend of really bad comedy sequels, can't get any worse than Big Mama's Like Father, Like Son. Again, same problem with the Meet the Parents movies. The first Big Mama's House movie was fine for what it is. Big Mama's House 2, not the worst, but not the best either, but at least it was trying. This one clearly wasn't trying whatsoever, and it was basically the end of Brandon T. Jackson's potential as a comedic actor, leading actor in general, because his career just fell off the cliff after this movie came out. It just wasn't worth it in the end. There's no reason to make another movie except, Glee's a thing now, so we gotta have a movie where, it's not only Big Mama's House movie, but we have to whore out Glee as much as we can, even though Glee was already losing a lot of his muster at this point. I mean, that same year, we had the Glee 3D concert movie, and even by that point, the novelty wore off quickly. It wasn't funny. It was obnoxious. It was the second worst movie I saw in 2011, in a year where you had so many other better sequels out there that got pushed off to the side. I hate Big Mama's Like Father, Like Son so much. Bourne Legacy. Jeremy Renner, not a bad choice to replace Bourne, but, you go to a Bourne movie expecting to see Jason Bourne kick ass, and you get some pretty good action sequences. The Bourne Legacy is a lame-ass retread of that. It's a retread of every poorly made action movie ever made. It doesn't even feel close to any of the Bourne movies. We have a story that makes no sense whatsoever, characters whose motivations are completely pointless and obnoxious. Rachel Weisz plays one of the most obnoxious female characters I've seen since Kate Capshaw in Temple of Doom. That's how bad she is. A climax that fails on every single level. The final bad guy gets taken out in the most pathetic way possible, and that's how the movie ends. Like, the movie doesn't even bother to do anything that make the first films fun. Jeremy Renner could be a good Jason Bourne replacement, but you have to give him a better movie than this. This is basically the equivalent of what happened when Peter Sellers passed away and they continued on the Pink Panther movies. They were never anywhere near as good as the original films were, and surely the Bourne Legacy definitely deserves to be in that echelon too. So yeah, the Bourne Legacy is definitely a sequel that should be on this list. Wrath of the Titans, of course, I gotta throw that in there because, hey, Clash of the Titans was in my last video. And yeah, nobody was asking for a Clash of the Titans sequel. They only made it because the first film was a big success at the box office. And they made it even worse with a story that makes no sense, high-budgeted special effects that make no sense. Schlock master filmmaker Jonathan Leesman directed the film. I mean, it's a movie that rips off every single action movie ever made and does nothing new to be original. And yeah, Wrath of the Titans is one of those films that did not need to exist as a sequel. It was only made because the first film made money. It was coming off the Avatar novel, the Avatar craze. And nobody gave a fuck after this. Nobody did. I'm sorry to say it, but nobody did. Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. You have a movie with the guys behind Crank. Nicolas Cage is back as Ghost Rider. You think, okay, there's some cool things that can be done with this, and they just don't do anything with it at all. They make it so loud and obnoxious and not fun on any way, shape, or form. It's just like you take a wonderful idea and just completely butcher it with one of the most stupidest concepts I've ever seen in my entire life. The thrill factor was not there with Ghost Rider. It just falls apart on every single possible level. What a major, major letdown that movie was. Hangover Part 3. Going back to what I said about Meet the Focker, about Little Fockers and Big Mamas Like Father Like Son, here you have another movie that's trying to create a trilogy with a movie that should have just stopped after the first film. I mean, talk about a franchise that did not need to become a franchise. The first Hangover was a great comedy. The sequel was fine, even though it was just basically a retread of the first film, but nothing spectacular. But this one just infuriated me with how lazy it gets, because it decides to take the fun over-the-top comedy aspect out of it and just make it a different, darker direction that it did not need to go whatsoever. The jokes are not funny. The script is terrible. The villain is badly portrayed. There are too many dark moments in this, just jokes that don't have payoffs whatsoever. Like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth making another film and taking it down this dark path where a lot of sequels in 2013 took that dark path for no particular reason. Star Trek did it. Fast and Furious did it. There's no reason to go down this pathway, and yet, especially for a comedy like The Hangover, there was no intentions on making a good movie here. They only wanted the third film made because they wanted to get a trilogy out there. Well, congratulations, you got your trilogy, but you also lost franchise integrity with this third film. Just a terrible movie. Grown Ups 2. So this was the first film that Adam Sandler decided he was going to make a sequel off of, and this is really the best you can come up with. Really. Yeah, this movie is bad. Let me just put it this way. Kmart has a sponsorship in this movie. In 2013, when Kmarts were going out of style and going out of business. This was one of two movies that did that. The other was Man of Steel. And Man of Steel was at least trying to do so, at least had something enjoyment out of it. But Grown Ups 2 is just fucking awful, man. It's just like, I still can't get over it. Adam Sandler decides not to do a sequel after all these years, and yet this is the one he has to do a sequel for. Just, why? More bad comedy sequels. We're going to have a lot of them on this list. Horrible Bosses 2. Horrible Bosses was a great comedy, and then they decided to make a sequel because the first film was such a success. And once again, it falls into the same trap as every other comedy sequel out there. It is absolutely pointless. There is not a single reason for this to exist except for the fact that the first film made money, and everything about this movie falls into the typical problems of the first film. These are the first of every comedy sequel, is that it's just the first film again. Let's make the characters even stupider than they were before, and they literally do every single thing the first thing did, right from the setup to the big twist at the end of who actually is causing the killings in this. And it's just like, this movie is so fucking awful on so many levels. Like, this is a film that just fails on every single possible level. They got everybody back for this, and for what? To do the same thing you did the first time around and make it less funny and even stupider than you did the first time. The only person that comes through this relatively unscathed is Kevin Spacey, who's basically the Chevy Chase in Caddyshack 2 in this movie, who's delivering the best laughs of the whole movie. That's the only reason that this movie has anything of value to it, is because of Kevin Spacey. Say what you will about him as a person in real life, but guy's still a great actor, and this is one of the reasons why he could save a really terrible movie like this from having from being completely pointless on every single level. He's the one thing that saves this film. Everything else about him, this movie is garbage. Rio 2. It's a rare animated sequel on the show here that really did not work. I like the first Rio movie, and the problem with Rio 2 is that they rip off everything from Shreks 2 and 3, Meet the Parents. They even rip off Frozen by having the other half of the team from Wicked in this movie, Kristen Chenoweth, as a character who seems absolutely pointless. It's the same villain from the last movie, too. Jermaine Clement as the toucan. Oh, not the toucan, the, what do you call him? I can't remember the bird, but you remember him from the first movie. And yeah, there's no reason for everybody in here to be in this film. Like, the story is absolutely pointless. It goes dark again for some reason. Like, what is going on with these sequels that have to be dark for no particular reason? Like, have a point to be dark if you're gonna go dark, honestly. And it's just a major disappointment because there was so much you could do with this, and they just made a cookie-cutter, by-the-book animated sequel that would have easily been a direct-to-DVD film 10 years prior. But no, it's made for the big screen, and it really is one of those examples of when Blue Sky Studios was really struggling to find some merit to it. I'd even throw in the Ice Age sequels after 3, Continental Drift, and also Collision Course as bad sequels in general, but Rio 2 was just a film. It's just like, we don't give a fuck what we're doing. The studios are paying us money to make a sequel, so here's the thing we pulled out of our ass. Plain and simple. Rio 2. Terminator Genesis and Terminator Dark Fate. I mean, Let's be honest, Terminator should have just ended with Terminator Salvation. I mean, that Pit film was a whole lot better than anything that was coming out of Genesis or Dark Fate. And the biggest problem with these movies is that they're trying to continue a story that continues to just keep getting more confusing, convoluted, whatever you want to say. It just doesn't. These movies just don't work, and they lose the magic of the original Terminator films. Like, I would say honestly, Terminator 2 should have been the stopping point. Terminator 3 is not really that great, but Terminator Salvation is definitely a lot better than that. But at the same time, those films were at least trying to add more to the story. These two films are just being nothing more but, hey, look, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton back together again. Isn't that great? Okay, give them a movie to work with. Give them a story that actually works instead of just being nothing but fan service. That's the biggest problem with it. And they completely just butcher the story of John Connor through those two sequels. They made John Connor a bad guy in Genesis for no particular reason, played by Jason Clarke. And then in the next movie, they just kill him off for no particular reason, just to change it up. It's like, what's the point? Like, what really are you adding to this? Because none of these two movies are doing anything to make these movies worth it in the end. It's just bad films. Spectre is another one that came out. Daniel Craig's a great James Bond. Quantum of Solace wasn't that great, but Spectre is much worse. And the biggest problem with Spectre simply is that the opening title was terrible. Daniel Craig just looks like he doesn't care anymore. The return of Bond's greatest enemy, Blofeld. Blofeld, and just bringing in this really bad twist at the end with him, where it's just like this is a mess on so many levels that makes Die Another Day look like Dr. No. The only good thing that came out of this movie was the song by Sam Smith. That's the best thing about this movie. But other than that, in a year we had a lot of really good spy movies. Yeah, this and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. are definitely the worst of those spy movies in 2015. More worthless comedy sequels, Zoolander 2. 15 years after the original film, when nobody gave a crap about Zoolander anymore, Ben Stiller decided to make one because, hey, Anchorman 2 was a big hit. But at least Anchorman 2 was actually trying, it was actually funny. Zoolander 2 was not. Zoolander 2 was a movie that is basically just a ripoff of Austin Powers 2. Let's get as many celebrity cameos as we have here, and let's just not even try to make a good sequel at all. Like, they didn't even try. They only made it because the first film had this huge cult following, and if you're going to do a sequel, I always say this, if you're going to do a comedy sequel, do it 3 to 4 years, 2 to 4 years after the original film. If you're doing it past then, you have no reason to be doing this. And sadly, they keep making them, and they're only going to get worse and worse from here, people. So brace yourself. Huntsman Winter's War, because Universal basically wanted to have their own live-action Frozen movie before Disney would eventually make their own live-action Frozen movie, which they're going to do at some point. But, I mean, I like the original Snow White and the Huntsman. I thought it was a fun film. Charlize Theron was great. Chris Hemsworth was really good. Kristen Stewart was good in that movie. The biggest problem with this movie is that, once again, it's a film that just fails on so many levels because it's a movie that's trying way too hard to continue this story that didn't really need a continuation. They made this because the first film made money. They did Snow White in the first film, so let's go ahead and take another franchise in general and just basically let's do Frozen. Let's do it before Disney gets the upper hand on it, because again, that's what they did with this film. It just doesn't work. Independence Day Resurgence. Nobody was asking for this. Fox was trying to set this up as 2016's Jurassic World, and yeah, nobody was asking for this movie whatsoever. Roland Emmerich, going back to what made him popular, because he had nothing else to do. He's a hack director. He always has been. He always will be. He's worse than Michael Bay, and he's worse than Michael Bay because he makes the same movies over and over and over again, and just gets by on blowing shit up because he doesn't know how to write a good story. He doesn't know how to write good characters. He doesn't care about making a good movie. All he cares about is conning audiences like a con man does out of their money with stupid shit, and that's exactly what they did here. They made this movie even stupider than the first movie was, and I didn't even like the first Independence Day all that much, but my god, what a mess of a film this was. And of course, I gotta throw in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, this generation's Phantom Menace, the film that basically killed my hopes and dreams that the Snyderverse was actually going to be worth something, but no. Jar Jar Jesse Eisenberg, just a really, really bad film that was trying to do the MCU in half the time that Marvel took their time to make it, and this was the end result of it. A pile of garbage, easily one of the worst pieces of garbage I've ever seen with a superhero movie. I mean, this is a mess of a film. Yeah, Ben Affleck's great as Batman, so is Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but this movie just sucks. Plain and simple. X-Men Apocalypse, another bad superhero movie. Like, the problem with X-Men Apocalypse simply is that they're trying to do the movie was trying to be, Bryan Singer was supposed to get his third X-Men movie after studio interference meddled with The Last Stand. And guess what? It's in this movie too. And don't even get me started on Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse. It's just like, the dude kills people with sand, and they're trying to set him up as like the Thanos of this. Just go fuck yourself. Just go fuck yourself, seriously. Fantastic Beasts trilogy, we can throw those in there too, because yeah, all those movies are terrible. They're only made because Warner Brothers wants to keep making movies based off of Harry Potter, because Harry Potter's a big money baby, and yeah. You have the theme parks for a reason, so you can make money off of that, and you can stop making these god-awful movies, which they keep getting worse and worse and worse with every film that goes along. Eddie Redmayne's a decent actor, but I'm sorry, Fantastic Beasts should have never been a thing, because even the first movie wasn't worth it in the end. Alice Through the Looking Glass, proof that not everything Disney had done in 2016, which was a pretty good year for them, was great. And yeah, Alice Through the Looking Glass was a sequel that really did not try whatsoever. Nobody was asking for this. Nobody wanted to see Johnny Depp returning as this character. And just don't have Johnny Depp show up in anything, because people were sick and tired of seeing him around that time, because he was in everything that was coming out, even as a lot of bad movies. Alice Through the Looking Glass is a bad movie. Smurfs: The Lost Village. Let me just say, they've had 5 attempts to get the Smurfs made on the big screen. The best one they've ever had was the one for the 1980s, The Smurfs and the Magic Flute, and that was because there was at least an effort being put in there. It was made before the Smurfs animated series from the 80s. But when I have to say that the 2011 live-action Smurfs movie is the best film from the Smurfs, that's not a good sign whatsoever, and yeah. Yeah, they took the route to make it animated, but even then, it's a movie that only exists because of a loophole from the original Smurf storyline that, okay, can you work a story around it? No, we're not going to do that. Here's just loud noises. I mean, that's really all the movie is. Nothing but loud noises and wasting all the star talent on this garbage of a film. Fate of the Furious. That was the film that killed the Fast and Furious series, and one person killed it altogether. Charlize Theron as the villain in that, because they kept bringing her back for every single movie, and she is one of the worst villains I have ever seen in my entire life. She is boring, she is lifeless, she has nothing of value to her whatsoever. I'm sick and tired of the family aspect in these movies. This literally killed the Fast and Furious series. Like, Furious 6, like the last one, Furious 7, should have been the death nail, because Paul Walker's no longer with you, and you're trying to continue this on without him, and you just keep repeating the same goddamn movie over and over and over again. You did it with Fast X, too, which was also terrible, too. Alien Covenant is another bad one, Prometheus was not the film that it was supposed to be, but they basically just said, let's go back to what made the original Alien films worth it, because this is nothing but a retread of the last 5 Alien movies. No creativity to it whatsoever. Great visuals, but visuals don't make a good film. I mean, it's not a whole lot of intriguing characters or interesting situations. I mean, this is an insult to the Alien franchise. It just shows that Ridley Scott really has lost his way as a director, because he keeps making these sequels that nobody's asking for. And, yeah, Gladiator 2, I'll throw that in there, too. I'm sorry, Gladiator 2 fucking sucked. But thankfully, the Alien franchise has gotten back on track in the last couple of years with Alien Romulus and Alien Earth. So, at least the Alien and Predator franchises have been saved from lackluster films before them. Let's see, what's next here? Is there anything else on here? I already talked about The Mummy. Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Another example of a movie where the first film was great, and then they made a sequel, and then they just had nothing else to work with here. Like, it's a botched half-ass attempt to try to recapture the magic of the first film, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, the action sequences are still cool to watch, but I got bored watching this movie. It's just a dull misfire of a sequel, and it just goes to show you that maybe Matthew Vaughn had his creativity stop at Kingsman, because after this, he just really fell apart at the seams with every movie that came out after that. I mean, my God, man, what a really bad film. So is Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Well, Dead Men should tell you to stop making these goddamn movies, because again, just like before, nobody gives a shit about Johnny Depp anymore, and these movies are basically just really, they just get so annoying, so lackluster. Like, you know, the main villain in here has like a lisp or a speech impediment, like he's Daffy Duck or Donald Duck. It's just like, this is supposed to be these are supposed to be serious movies, and they keep getting stupider and stupider with every passing film. It's just like Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Just, I'm glad the series has stopped right now, but probably we're going to get another one within the next couple of years. Just watch. The Cloverfield Paradox. You know, Cloverfield was one of those big surprise hits from 10 years ago, and then you have 2016's 10 Cloverfield Lane, which literally wasn't even a thing until January, until you went to see 13 days into January, and that turned out to be great. Cloverfield Paradox, same kind of marketing campaign, will tell you that, hey, we're gonna put this out there. You're gonna be watching the Super Bowl, and we realize that, hey, we have a new Cloverfield movie coming. In fact, tonight after the game, and it's just like, oh, okay, the first two movies were great. Surely this can't go wrong, and yeah, it goes wrong here. I mean, this was not even supposed to be a Cloverfield movie. It was supposed to be a standalone film, but they just basically brought it into Cloverfield. It's like taking Zootopia and setting it in the same universe as The Lion King. It makes no sense whatsoever, and it just doesn't work here. This is a movie that just isn't as intimidating or as intense as the previous two films were. There's no shock value here. There's no surprising factors in here. It's just lame garbage. Same can be said for Pacific Rim Uprising, which was basically nothing but loud noises and the film telling you to go fuck yourself for 2 hours. That's literally the entire movie. But then again, when you don't have Guillermo del Toro there to direct the film, there's your first mistake right there. The script is terrible. I mean, this is a lousy film on so many levels, with so many good actors in here just wasting their time with this. This is an example of a bad sequel made from people who had no interest in making a good film whatsoever and just wanted to make a quick cash grab, and this was the end result of that. A cluttering, loud mess of a film on so many levels. I hate this film so much. Let's see. What's the next one I've got here? I thought I had some more on here for 2018. Let me see. I mean, the 50 Shades movies, I don't think I really need to tell you why those are bad. I mean, they're just bad films. And even the Twilight New Moon and Breaking Dawn Part 1 is another one of those examples of films I could throw in there. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I won't even throw the Jurassic World films in there, because even the bad ones, there's at least some things I like about those films, so I will throw those in there. I don't hate them as much as everybody else does. So, next up. More bad X-Men, Dark Phoenix. Simon Kinberg brought in to direct this. That should have been your first sign right there. They tried to redo the Dark Phoenix saga again, which is like the third or fourth time they tried to do this with this, and every time they failed miserably at it. And there were also numerous reshoots, especially on the climax. I mean, this thing was a disaster from the very beginning, and this was supposed to be the end of a 20-year X-Men film franchise before it gets rebooted by Disney and Marvel, and it did not look like that whatsoever. It felt like they were trying to tell you more stories, but then Disney bought Fox, and then nobody decided, guys, maybe we should figure out a way to end this series so they can go ahead and do the reboot of this. And then Simon Kinberg basically said, shut the fuck up, we're not doing that. And sure enough, that's exactly the movie we get here. Just a terrible, terrible end to a series of films that started off strong, but failed miserably with this film right here. Men in Black International. I mean, the Men in Black trilogy overall is fun on so many levels. First one's a classic. Second one, not as good, but still fun. Third film, good conclusion to the series. Actually better than the second film. But you'd think with a movie with Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, who had that great chemistry in the Thor films, would come together in a film like this. It also has Liam Neeson, directed by F. Gary Gray, and it's not there. I mean, the magic is gone with Men in Black International. The script is bland. The action is just a mixed bag. You just don't care anymore. There's no life left in this tank for the franchise unless you have to do something really completely different than just rebuild it from the get-go. And it just doesn't work. And it just is a massive, massive failure on so many levels. Major disappointment. Men in Black International definitely is one of those films. Now we're at the point where studios are just taking intellectual property and deciding to make sequels, even though nobody has been asking them for several years. Case in point with our first film, The Matrix Resurrections, which, started off as a franchise because the first movie was a good film. Not a great movie, but they had amazing visuals. Reloaded and Revolutions weren't great films. Yeah, Reloaded had that great car chase, but that's about it. But this one started off with promise. The first 30 minutes actually were kind of good, but then it just comes another Matrix movie where everything is so much more important than you're making it out to, than you believe it to be, and all that goodwill from the first 30 minutes is just gone, and what you're left with is a terrible Matrix sequel. Coming to America, the sequel that nobody was asking for, especially 30 years after the original Coming to America, which is still a classic movie, but, I mean, it's just that it just doesn't, it's just not fun. I mean, yeah, Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall can be funny here, but you have to have a reason to come back after all these years. Like the Barbershop movies had a reason to come back. They actually made good films off of that. You know, Bad Boys, the last two films have been great. Bill and Ted Face the Music was a great comedy sequel. This was just nothing but doing another movie because the first film had so much memorability to it, and we don't have anything else to do because Eddie Murphy hasn't been of anything relevant for the last 10 years. Just like, get him more stuff to do besides this, which luckily they've been getting him more stuff to do, which is good to see, which is not just simply doing comedy sequels again. Even the comedy sequel he is doing, Beverly Hills Cop Actual F, was actually pretty damn good from last summer. But yeah, this Coming to America is one of the worst comedy sequels ever. The Boss Baby, Family Business. The big shock of this movie is that it's almost a decent film. It's definitely better than the last movie and almost works. There were actually moments that did get some good laughs from me, especially with Jeff Goldblum's lack of trying as the villain role here. Like, seriously, look at Jeff Goldblum's performance, especially in the climax, and you can just tell he does not care, but at least he's having the time of his life working with it. But the film overall just can't get past the fact that it's a one-joke premise that just doesn't fit into a full movie, let alone two films, but at least there was effort to try this time around. Paranormal Activity, The Next of Kin, because we can't just keep killing, because the Paranormal Activity series just can't die. No. We're gonna beat this dead horse until it's dead for good. And even then, we're gonna keep making garbage like this. It's just like, there's no reason to make another Paranormal Activity movie, nor there was another reason to make a Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which, I'll give it this, it was better than the Anderson Mila Jovovich films, but even then, still not a great film. Still not a great film at all. Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. As bad as the other Ice Age sequels have been, Buck Wild was the worst one because it was sold A, as a spin-off, but also B, as the sixth film in the Ice Age series, and C, had some of the worst animation I have ever seen for a movie ever. Now, I know this went straight to Disney+, but at the same time, you have to have better animation than this. This looks extremely choppy, and you know it's bad when you can't even get any of the original actors to come back, except for Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg is the only one that comes back in this movie, and, like, it's supposed to be a spin-off, and yet you still have all the other Ice Age characters all around. It's just like, why? Like, I'll just say this. Just watch Ice Age Sprat Tales. That's the best thing to come out of Ice Age since the third film. Everything else, complete and utter garbage. Expendables 4. You know, the first two Expendables movies were fun. Expendables 3 wasn't all that great. Expendables 4, however, was just one where they were trying so hard to get this movie made to the point where, you know, Sylvester Stallone doesn't even bother to come back to his own baby. Like, he's at the forefront of the marketing. He's barely in the movie, and the film's main focus is Jason Statham and Megan Fox. That's where the film actually had some of the best moments in it. But other than that, it was literally them just scratching for anything else they could take out of the Expendables franchise and just making it into a complete and utter mess of a film. I guess I can also throw in The Flash 2, which really, The Flash isn't really a sequel to anything, but it's a sequel but it's a film that continues the story from the DC cinematic universe, which, yeah, it's just, yeah, we're glad that that's over with, because I'm sorry, as much as keep trying to defend that movie all you want to, Andres Machete, you still made a fucking terrible movie. I mean, that film is still one of the worst pieces of garbage I've ever seen in my entire life. Moana 2, the sequel that was literally made from 6 episodes of a canceled Disney Plus series, and that's not even me saying it. That's literally what it was, because I'm willing to guarantee you that in 2024, when 2024 started, they had no intentions on making a Moana 2 until they realized that the Moana sequel wasn't working. And, hey, we need a quick cash grab fast, so let's put together this hastily put together sequel, and the end result is a useless pile of garbage that feels like an insult to the original Moana on so many levels. What a terrible movie that was. Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, an animated Lord of the Rings film that was only made strictly because Warner Brothers had to keep the Lord of the Rings rights from getting away to Amazon, and they basically wasted theatrical time on this movie, on a film that could have easily been seen on DVD. I went to see this on the big screen. I'm telling you right now, that shit did not look theatrical in any way, shape, or form. Like The Day the Earth Flew Out felt more theatrical than this movie was. And that's the one that Warner Brothers pushed off to another company, which just continues to show you that they have no idea what the fuck they're doing at Warner Brothers. Case in point with the next film on here, Joker Filet Adieu, which, you know, Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Should be a good combination, but fortunately they did not have an idea for a sequel, but they only made it because, say it with me folks, the first film made money. I've taught you well. But, yeah, that is just basically the reasoning why Joker Filet Adieu exists, and it just shows right from the get-go that movie is a complete and utter mess. It starts off promisingly with a pretty fun Looney Tunes parody cartoon, but after that, that's where the film just goes careening off the cliff and just leads into a steaming pile of garbage that follows after that. God, what a terrible movie that was. And 2025 certainly has its fair share of really bad sequels. Happy Gilmore 2. I say the same thing I said about Grown Ups 2. At least Happy Gilmore was a good Adam Sandler movie, but 19 years too late, and it's literally nothing but just watching celebrity cameos and lackluster comedy and nostalgic fan service, and not even good nostalgic fan service. Jurassic World Rebirth, trying to continue the storyline from the original, trying to start a new storyline with Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, and also Jonathan. I can't remember the last guy's name. It wasn't Jonathan Groff. It was somebody named Jonathan, but bottom line, it just didn't work. I just got it took 7 movies to make me not give a shit about Jurassic Park anymore. Just like, it's amazing that it took that long. It really is amazing that it took that long, considering the Fast and Furious took 8 movies to make me get off that bandwagon. 28 years later, a film that starts off promisingly, but has one of the biggest fuck you endings you'll ever see, that completely dismantles any hope of this movie being good and gets me less excited for The Bone Temple coming up in a couple of months. Smurfs. Rihanna Smurfs. I mean, technically not a sequel, but like I said, it's in the same vein as Smurfs The Lost Village, so throw that in there. And that was the point where I just said, just no more Smurfs movies anymore. Just no more of these movies, please, for the love of God. Megan 2.0, completely taking the over-the-top silliness of the first film and trying to do something completely different and failing miserably on that level too, and not in a good way. I mean, yeah, it's cool I would like to see him do something different, but the way they took it to the next level of stupidity is just beyond ridiculous with that film. Freakier Friday. Hey, I'm glad to see that Lindsay Lohan's back in the spotlight and Jamie Lee Curtis is getting some more roles too, but you could put him in better stuff than a sequel that does not need to exist. Nobody gave a crap about a new Freaky Friday movie. It was nothing but a retread of the first film, except it's now the kids that are getting switched around too. It's just like, again, what's the point? And then last but not least, the one that we had not too long ago, Tron Ares. Just the point. It's just gotten to the point where the Tron series just really, there's no reason to do another one now. I mean, Tron and Tron Legacy are great films, but Tron Ares has just nothing of value to it whatsoever. An idea that starts off promisingly, but when they start throwing in lazy comedic aspects in a franchise that does not need to add in lame comedy like this, like, that's the part where I was just kind of like, I'm done with this, man. It's just like, it says a lot when Jared Leto isn't the worst thing about a movie like this. I mean, that's how bad it was. Jared Leto's not even is the best thing about this movie, aside from the visuals and the 9 Inch Nails soundtrack, of course. But so there you go. That is 20 years worth of really, really bad sequels. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. Tell me some other bad sequels that you think should be on that list. But there you go. That's my list of the worst sequels of the last 20 years. And next week, of course, we'll get back to a regular format of our show with Predator Badlands coming out next week. I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification button. And also, don't forget to check out our playlist and check out the last video we did talking about my worst remakes of the last 20 years. And with all that said, I will see you guys next week for another episode. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.